Greetings to all the UGC aspirant students and welcome to our class on Public International Law. Today I am taking up a new experiment. I am recording my lectures prior to my live class so that students can listen to my recorded lecture before coming to my live class, and when they appear before the live class they can ask questions and clarify any doubt that they may have with regard to my recorded lecture. This is a new experiment and let us see if this works or not, whether it is better than the old approach. The old approach was I will be taking up lectures in the live class, and if time permits I will be taking up question and answers. So this is a new approach and let us see if it is working or not. Okay, so my plan was to take classes on the different theories of relationship between municipal law and international law. But before taking up that particular topic, I want to finish a few important points that I left out in my last class. In the last class, I have discussed about important principles behind international conventions of or law of treaties or treaties as sources of international law. Okay, we have uh, discussed about the general principles behind international conventions as a source of law and their exceptions in the last class. Now another important point that we have to look into is the different steps involved in the making of a treaty. Okay, so there are as you can see in the diagram, there are actually 6 steps that are there, which are involved in the drafting and conclusion of a treaty, and this 6 steps are identified or are stipulated in accordance with the provisions of Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties. Okay, so we will look into each of the steps one by one. So what is the first step? The first step is negotiation. Let us see what you may mean by negotiation. Okay, so if you see Article 6 of the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties, you can understand that every state possesses the capacity to conclude treaties. Okay, um, what is a state, and what are the particular salient features of a state, we will discuss in the coming classes. For the time being, please understand every state possesses a capacity to conclude treaties. That is according to Article 6 of the Vienna Convention 1969. Okay, now what do you mean by negotiation? Okay, so as I have mentioned, according to Article 6, every state possesses the capacity to conclude treaty. How do you conclude treaty? The first step is negotiation. And what is negotiation? According to Article 2, Clause 1, Subclause E, negotiation is nothing but drawing up and adopting the text of a treaty. Okay, so what happens in a negotiation according to Article 2, Clause 1, Clause E is the state will draw up, they will come up with the provisions of the treaty that is to be concluded. Okay, uh, in a negotiation, the member states of a future treaty will come together and they will discuss what should be the text, important provisions of the treaty that should be included or that should not be included. Okay, so that is what happens in negotiation. And how does it how it is done, if you look into Article 7, you will see that negotiations are done by states by sending their representatives. Okay, in order to have a discussion together as members of a treaty and finalize the text of a treaty. you have to send representatives. Okay, and these representatives are sent by the states for discussing the text of the treaty and for adopting the text of the treaty, and the process of appointing representatives or the procedure that is involved, uh, it is appropriately called as granting of full powers. Okay, so who are the representatives that are sent by the states for the purpose of negotiation? If you look into Article 7, Subclause 2 of the Vienna Convention Law of Treaties, the representatives that can be sent by the member state to a future international treaty can be heads of states, heads of government, and ministers for foreign affairs. The representatives can also be heads of diplomatic missions. Uh, it can also be any other person who is accredited for appearing in international conference on behalf of a particular state for entering into negotiations. Okay, so these the representatives are of three types. Now, what happens if a person who is not authorized to participate in negotiations come to the negotiation table and act on behalf of the state? Okay, if any person who is not authorized to become a representative in a negotiation of with regard to discussing the text of a treaty, such negotiations done on behalf of that particular state will have no legal effect. Okay, it will be without any legal effect, without the appropriate sanction of the state to grant such an individual the power of representation. Any action taken by such an individual will be without any legal effect. Okay, so in that particular case, uh, if such a scenario happens, okay, if any person comes before the negotiation table on behalf of a state without the power of representation, such acts of that person can be subsequently validated by authorizing such a person after the fact to by the state. Okay, subsequently, the person who did not have the power of representation, his actions can be validated subsequently by giving him the power of representation after the fact. Okay, that is what is mentioned in Article 8 of the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaty. Now, coming back to the second step, that is adoption. Adoption is where the parties, the representatives who are sent to the negotiation, expresses their consent or approval to the text that is being drafted in the or finalized in the negotiation stage. Okay, after negotiation, where the text of the treaty are finalized. Okay, the parties to the treaty, the representatives who are sent to the negotiation, in the second stage they have to agree to the text that is drafted as a result of the negotiation. Okay, so once the parties agree to the text, it is called as adoption of the treaty. Okay, how does the adoption is done? How that adoption is done by two-third majority. Okay, that is the two-third majority of the member states or the representatives of the member states who are participating in the negotiation must approve the text that is drafted, finally drafted. Once the two-third majority of the representatives or the members of the states agree to the text of the treaty, we can say that the text has been adopted according to Article Article 9 of the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaty. So the third step is consent. Consent defined under Article 11 of the Vienna Convention of Law Treaty. So consent is nothing less than the method that is utilized by states to express their agreement to the text of a draft treaty. Okay. So I have mentioned earlier that in negotiation you draft the text of a treaty, uh, and the second step is adoption. Adoption is where where happens when majority of the states agree to the text of the treaty. That when I say majority, it should be 2/3 majority. That we have already discussed in the in the previous slide, right? That is adoption and negotiation that we have discussed earlier. Uh, Negotiation is given under Article 9 of the VCLT. Adoption is given under Article 10 of the VCLT. Consent is where it speaks about the different methods of expressing agreement to the text of the treaty. So what are the different methods of expressing agreement to the text of the treaty? The first method is signature. Okay, that is given under Article 12. The representatives of the states can put their signature to the text of the treaty to express their agreement. Another method that is given under Article 13 of the Vienna Convention of Treaty is exchange of instruments. Okay, so exchange of instruments is basically the member states will exchange documents with each other. In the documents, in that particular documents, it will contain their signature. Okay. So exchange of instruments usually happens in bilateral agreements. Okay, so in bilateral agreements, what they do is each of the representatives will put their signature, saying that they agree to that particular treaty, and each representatives will exchange their signed documents with each other, so that they can keep it as a evidence or proof of their agreement. Uh, that is Article 13. Okay. Another one is ratification, that is mentioned in Article 14. So ratification happens when the legislature of a particular member state approves the uh, text of a draft international treaty. Okay, that is ratification, Article 14. Another method of expressing consent is given under Article 15, that is acceptance, approval, or assertion. Okay, or any other means. Okay, any other means. That is given under Article 15. Okay, in Article 15, you express acceptance, approval by any other means, or that is any other method that the parties to that international treaty can agree upon. So that is consent. Moving on, the next important step in drafting and conclusion of a treaty is a reservation that is provided under Article 19 of the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaty. Okay, so in reservation under Article 19, what happens is that each of the member states who who are participating in the negotiation and adoption of a treaty are given an option. Okay, they are given an option to claim exception to certain provisions of the treaty. Okay, uh, within a treaty, member states may grant exception to certain provisions. Okay, the member states may claim exceptions. Okay, it is not necessary to accept all the provisions of the treaty. They may claim exception to certain provisions of the treaty. Okay, the act of claiming certain exception to certain provisions of the treaty is known as a reservation. And a reservation may be claimed by a signatory or a state which is ratifying or accepting or approving or acceding to a treaty, uh, unless okay, reservation can be claimed unless the reservation is prohibited by the treaty. Okay, reservation in generally a state may claim reservations, okay, or exception to certain provisions of the treaty unless it is the reservation, claiming of reservation is prohibited by the treaty. Some treaties will say that all the parties to this particular treaty must accept all the provisions. Okay, so in other words, reservation is expressly prohibited. In that particular case, reservation cannot be claimed. Okay, uh, and there may be situations where a treaty may provide certain conditions which must be satisfied before claiming reservation, and these conditions may include as mentioned under article 19 clause B and C. If you read B and C, you will see. Okay, according to article 19 clause B, a treaty may say that reservation can can uh, can be provided only with specific area. Okay, in specific area or specific provisions can all in with regard to certain specific provisions only you can claim reservation, and you cannot claim reservation with regard to the remaining provisions. You can only claim reservation with regard to certain provisions. Okay, few provisions. It will expressly mention which provisions of the treaty where you can claim reservation. Only those provisions you can claim reservation, and the remaining provisions you cannot claim reservation. Okay, uh, and reservation cannot be claimed when such reservations defeat the purpose and objective of the treaty. Hmm? And there are also situations where in order to claim reservation, the claim of reservation has to be approved by two-third majority of the remaining member states. Okay, unless that two-third majority is there approving the reservation claimed by a particular state, reservation cannot be made. Hmm? So moving on to the next important step, the particular treaty that is being drafted, it has to determine the territorial scope of the treaty. Okay, that is given under Article 29 of the Vienna Convention of Treaty. Unless a different intention appears from the treaty or is otherwise established, a treaty is binding upon each party in respect of its entire territory. Okay, unless a different intention. Okay, usually, generally, a treaty which is concluded, drafted and concluded by a state is applicable to the whole territory of the state, unless an exception is claimed by, unless provided otherwise by that particular treaty. Okay, now that is the territorial scope of the treaty. Okay, in this step you have to determine the territorial scope of the treaty. Now moving on to the next step in drafting and concluding of a treaty is depositing of international treaty. Okay, so depositing of an international treaty is a step where the parties to the treaty uh, accept or agree that the particular treaty has to be deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations. Okay, each and every treaty that is concluded by parties to an international treaty has to be deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations. It is that is given under Article 82 of the Vienna Convention of 1969. If you read Article 2 of the VCLT 1969, it says that this treaty, that is the Vienna Convention Law Treaty, shall be deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations. Okay. So after negotiation, where the states text of the treaty are finalized, the member states express their agreement or consent, and the treaty is adopted. It has to be deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations. Okay, that is the final step. And it no, not the final step. There is another also another step. The treaty has to be published. Okay, publication of the treaty. The publication of the treaty is done after depositing the treaty in the with the Secretary General of the United Nations. And the Secretary General of the United Nations, once the treaty is deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations, it will be published. Okay, published to the international community. That is the final step with regard to international, with regard to drafting and concluding of an international treaty. Okay, so these steps are very important. Please keep in mind the different articles which constitutes the different steps in the drafting and concluding of a treaty. Okay, so the next important thing that I want to discuss is the soft or emerging sources of international law. So we have discussed about classical sources of international law, where we discussed customary international law and general principles of civilized nations. Then we have discussed modern sources of international law, in which we covered international treaties, judicial decisions, and juristic work as sources of international law. And there, other than that, there are other sources of international law which are not covered by Article 38 of the ICJ statute. Okay. So there are other sources of international law, emerging sources of international law, otherwise known as soft sources of international law, that is not mentioned, expressly mentioned by Article 38 clause 1 of the ICJ statute. And there are mainly two sources that are not mentioned. One is the resolutions passed by members of international organizations. International organization, it is a very recent development when you take into account the age of how old is international law. When you take into account how old is international law, international organizations are a very recent development, and the international organizations are in their nascent stage. Okay, it is not, the scope and potential of international organizations are not fully developed. Okay, nowadays in the modern day, the international law is dominated and influenced by different international organizations. And within these international organizations, the member states, usually members of the international organizations are states, predominantly states, and within these international organizations, member states pass resolutions. Resolutions are basically the expression of view or expression of will of the members of an international organization. And these expression of will in the form of resolutions are emerging as a new source of international law. Unfortunately, it is not mentioned within Article 38 of the ICJ statute, but recent developments, evidence, resolutions passed by members of international organizations as emerging sources of international law. Examples include resolutions passed by General Assembly and the Security Council of the United Nations. Okay, if you read Article 10, if you read Article 10 with Article 14 of the United Nations Charter, it provides that the General Assembly can express its opinion with regard to international law through resolutions, through its resolutions, General Assembly resolutions. But these General Assembly resolutions are not binding. Okay. Nevertheless, since the General Assembly represents all the member states of United Nations, and the member states of United Nations include the lion's share of all the nation states which exist around the world, the General Assembly resolution, even though not binding, legally binding, it represents the opinion of the international community. Okay, it represents the majority opinion of the member states of the United Nations. Okay, so in other words, General Assembly resolution is like a public opinion. It is somewhat equal to a public opinion which exists within a state. Okay, General Assembly resolution is an opinion of the international community. It represents the opinion of the international community, even though it is not binding, but it has an indirect influence on the binding international laws. Okay. Another important thing is not all resolutions are non-binding. Okay, some resolutions are binding, and it depends on the structure of international organization. One such example is the Security Council. Okay, all the resolutions passed by the Security Council are binding. Okay, uh, that is given under Article 25, read with Chapter 6 and 7 of the UN Charter. Okay. Now, another important emerging source of international law, or soft source of international law, not found, not mentioned under Article 38 of the VN, of the Article 38 Clause 1 of the ICJ Statute, is the report of the International Law Commission. Okay, so International Law Commission is established by the General Assembly as a subsidiary organ of the General Assembly through the General Assembly Resolution 174 Clause 3, promulgated by the members of the General Assembly on 21st November 1947. Okay, so the draft conventions prepared by the International Law Commission. Basically, International Law Commission tries to codify international law, and in that attempt, they prepare draft international conventions. Okay, which can be ratified. That can be ratified. That may be ratified in the near future by members of the United Nations. So these draft international conventions prepared by the ICJ can act as material sources, or it may constitute evidence of opinio juris. It can also constitute writings of highly qualified publicists under Article 38 Clause 1 Subclause D of ICJ Statute. Okay, so in other words, International Law Commission, the reports of the International Law Commission is emerging as a new source of international law in itself. Okay, that is not found mentioned under Article 38. In other words, Article 38 of the ICJ Statute requires amendment. It has to be amended, and the resolutions passed by international organizations, members of the international organization, the principles codified by international principles of international law codified by International Law Commission in draft conventions have to be included under Article 38 of the ICJ statute, at least as subsidiary sources of international law. Okay, so these are the two emerging sources of international law, or soft sources of international law. Please remember the resolutions passed by members of international organization and reports of the International Law Commission. These are emerging sources of international law, not mentioned under Article 38 clause 1 of the ICJ statute. Even though they are not mentioned, these two sources are very relevant in the modern age of international law. So please remember. Okay, so that will be all with regard to the sources of international law. So the next recorded video will be about how international law, okay, how the different sources of international law are adopted into municipal law. That we are going to discuss in the next recorded video. Uh, so these are all the things that I have left uncovered in my classes about the different sources of international law. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please ask them in the live session that will be hosted the day after tomorrow. Okay. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye.